A discussion on humidity and stickiness, and that's followed by a forecast and extended outlook. I'm meteorologist Don Paul. Welcome to my podcast, Don Paul's Bits o' Blather on weather, climate, and this time, is it really sticky? On the subject of humid weather, much of this is subjective. As I'm recording this at 11 a.m. on Monday, the dew point at the Buffalo airport, and it's fairly representative of Western New York today, is only 55 degrees. And that gives us a fairly low humidity, not bone dry, but shy of what I would even call moderate humidity. But how you feel is very subjective and isn't easily settled by the numbers. If you're pulling weeds in the garden, it's going to feel a lot warmer to you, obviously, than if you're reading a novel with a nice cool drink in the shade on a chaise lounge. And some meteorologists refer to the dew point of 60 degrees as the marker for humid versus comfortable. Personally, and this is subjective on my part, I don't really agree with that. A 60-degree dew point is moderate humidity in my book, and it doesn't really start to feel more humid until at least dew points in the mid 60s or even more likely the upper 60s. And then once you get dew points into the 70s, which happens less frequently around here, then it really starts to get to the range of very humid. And for some people, it starts to feel truly oppressive. But even that is relative to what people are acclimated to. For example, the dew point right now at Miami at the airport is 72 degrees. And that is slightly better than it was at this time yesterday. In Miami, a dew point in the 60s on any day in the summer would be a gift from nature and would feel like a real breath of fresh air, while some of us around here start to call that humid. And so, the bottom line of my book, 60-degree dew points do not equate to humid weather unless it's actually cool outside. The temperature itself is only 62 degrees and the dew point temperature is 60 degrees. Then the air is almost saturated and it's humid. But with temperatures in the low 60s, it's certainly not going to feel steamy. So keep in mind that if you can cool your mind and say, in Cape Hatteras, a dew point of 64 degrees would be really nice. And we go to the Outer Banks for a week every summer, and dew points in the 60s are simply unheard of. Now, there is a sea breeze on the Outer Banks most days, at least at the beach. But 60-degree dew point, to me, is not a big deal by any stretch. Some people are much more sensitive to warmth and humidity than others. I'm not a fan of it myself, but just because I'm feeling hot doesn't mean I'm going to apply the word hot in my forecast until, and this is again subjective, 90 degrees is my forecast high. A 90-degree high in Miami would never be called hot in the National Weather Service forecast. It's what people are acclimated to. So try to think a little cooler and relax. Yesterday, I had a post about this topic on my Facebook page, and some people were telling me anything above 73 degrees is hot. Well, that's silly. You can say it, you have First Amendment freedoms, but that's really silly. And today, on this Monday, getting to the forecast part of this podcast episode, temperatures are going to be reaching 82, 83 degrees with a dew point between 58 and 61 degrees. I'm not about to call that humid, but the winds are going to be rather light. And that also is a key factor in how you feel. With less wind, there is less evaporation of the perspiration on your skin, less evaporative cooling. And on Tuesday, the wind speed will pick up to 15 to 20 miles an hour. And with temperatures actually a little warmer, reaching the mid 80s inland from Lake Erie, it may actually feel better on Tuesday due to the stiffening breeze, which speeds up evaporative cooling. By the way, both Monday and Tuesday could see an isolated shower or thunder shower late in the day, nowhere near the metro area, but around Allegheny County, maybe Olean, and in northern Pennsylvania. Same goes for Tuesday. But basically, summery feeling days, but not oppressively warm. Wednesday, the dew points may begin to go up some in advance of a vigorous low pressure system over Lake Superior, pumping in a southwest flow that gets brisk and brings up some Gulf moisture and some minimal ingredients for strong to isolated severe thunderstorms may show up by Wednesday afternoon and evening. The best chance for stronger thunderstorms will be east and south of the metro area because we're going to have some Lake Erie influence. Temperatures reaching the mid 80s. So Wednesday will be more humid, but still not oppressive, and there will be a good stiff breeze. Speaking of, as I did Lake Erie, the Lake Erie temperature has now reached 59 degrees. That is a whopping 10 degrees above the average for this date. And that's a significant anomaly. And if that kind of anomaly can continue, it will mean less cooling on a lake breeze than we typically experience. But we're still going to be very lucky to have a Lake Erie breeze. The only chance Buffalo will ever have of reaching 100 degrees, which has not happened in our record keeping history, which goes back to 1871, would be for a south or southeast flow, a downslope flow, which does not cross the Lake Erie waters. Behind a cold front on Thursday, we'll be back to the low 70s. Could be a couple of stray showers, but a mostly dry day, partly sunny, breezy, feeling, if you don't like the warmth and moderate humidity, better. Then on Friday, we'll be around 70 or so. Saturday, the low 70s, 73, 74. Sunday, another area of low pressure could bring a few showers and thunderstorms for a portion of the day with a little more muggification, but not really muggy, upper 70s, and then back to about 74 next Monday. So, all of our feelings about heat and humidity up to a point are somewhat subjective. And maybe if we can adjust our mindset when it does get warm and humid, we'll feel it a little less if we think, gee, what would it be like in Houston today or Dallas or Charlotte, North Carolina? And then say, oh, it sure feels a lot better around here than down there. So there with my pontification in this episode. I'll keep you in touch here on podcasts and on my social media pages. Thank you for listening this far, and please share.